Hey, what's going on, guys? I am Jake from today'siphone.com. Apple just finished their Worldwide Developer Conference and they announced a bunch of awesome new stuff, so let's go over the main topics. Alright, as expected, the announcement was cut up into 3 separate parts, one for Mac OS X Lion, one for iOS 5, and one for iCloud. So let's start with Lion. Okay, Apple highlighted 10 major new features for Mac OS X Lion, and let's go through a couple of the bigger ones. The first one I want to talk about is Mission Control, and this is basically an aggregation of expose and spaces into one convenient place. You can see all of your windows, you can see all of your spaces, and you still get all of your widgets. It's a great way to manage your space and your time on your Mac and get work done a little more efficiently. Speaking of getting work done more efficiently, Apple's created something called autosave and versions. Let's talk about autosave first. With this feature, you no longer have to save your work anymore because your Mac automatically does it for you, which means you never have to worry about forgetting to save before you quit, or if your computer crashes or anything. Your Mac will automatically save your work whenever you're working on something, so you just don't have to think about it. Versions is basically a time machine for any sort of document or anything. You can see all past versions of a document or a picture or whatever you're working on, and they're displayed in that very cool descending list Star Wars-y thing. And you can view them side by side, you can pick which one you want to save, you can make edits to the new one based on the old one, and it's just a very cool way to see your past work, and again, it's just something else to make your life a little bit easier. Now there's also full screen apps, a rebuilt mail application, some new multi-touch gestures, so this is definitely a big and very important update for OS X users. It's going to be available in July and costs $29.99 to upgrade from Snow Leopard, so I definitely think it's worth it. And while Lion is very awesome, being that we are an iPhone website, let's talk a little bit more about iPhone and iOS 5. Let's start with notifications. Now, as many of you could probably have guessed, this is my new favorite feature in iOS 5, and it looks amazing. Apple completely redesigned the notification system, and it's a lot more unintrusive, a lot more sleek, and a lot more Apple, basically. I gotta say, though, a lot of it looks very similar to the notification system called Mobile Notifier, created by jailbreak developer Peter Hayas, or whatever. When you get a new text or push notification, a little banner appears at the top of the screen, letting you know what it is, and it stays for a couple seconds, and then it disappears with this cool folding animation thing. And then in what is more or less a blatant copy from Android, you can swipe down from the status bar and you get a list of all your notifications, voicemails, emails, push notifications, text messages, all in a very cool, very sleek list. And you just tap on one and it brings you right to the application. What's more, Apple is finally adding some functionality to the home screen. Now when you get a notification or email or push notification or whatever, you get a little message right under the clock on the lock screen, and all you have to do to open that notification is slide the icon for said application, and you've taken right to that notification as opposed to taking the home screen and then having to find the notification yourself. Also in the notification center, you can activate the current weather and a stocks ticker. Alright, I am getting way too excited over this, so let's move on. In the spirit of the new notifications, I want to tell you guys about something called iMessage. Now in short terms, this is BBM for iOS devices. It's direct messaging from an iOS to an iOS device. Now this is really significant because it doesn't just work on iPhones, it works on iPhones, iPads, and iPod Touches over Wi-Fi and 3G. It's built right into the messaging app, and you can send text, photos, videos, contacts, and locations. You can do group messaging, you can see when someone's typing, you can see when someone's received your message, you can see when someone's read your message, and one of the perks of having it be on all iOS devices is you can start a conversation on your iPhone and pick it up on your iPad or your iPod Touch. Moving on, Apple introduced something new called Newsstand. Now this is digital subscriptions done right. Newsstand is a folder on your home screen, and in my opinion, it's the closest thing to a widget that we're going to see on an iOS device. Now this thing looks like a cross between a folder and the bookcase from iBooks. You tap on it and the folder expands and reveals all of your magazine and newspaper subscriptions right there on the home screen. What's more, every time there's a new edition of something you're subscribed to, the application automatically updates it within the folder, including the latest cover of the magazine, and you can click and read on it right away. It's delivered easily and in the background. As the Apple website says, it's basically like getting the newspaper at your front door every morning, only better. Next is something called Reminders. Now this is basically a smart to-do list for your iOS devices. You can create a to-do list and then set your iPhone or your iPod or your iPad to remind you to do something based on a time or a location. Now this means like if you have to buy milk at the grocery store, you can set your iPhone to remind you to buy milk when it senses that you're at the grocery store. What's more, Reminders is compatible with iCal, Outlook, and iCloud, so it syncs over all of your iOS devices and your Mac. Alright, moving on. As you know, we've been talking about Twitter integration in iOS 5 for a while now, and it looks like that rumor did pan out. All you have to do is sign into Twitter through the Settings app on your iOS device, and then you can send pictures directly to Twitter from the Photos application, but that's not all. You can also tweet things from Safari, from YouTube, and from the Maps application, and your contacts are integrated with Twitter in that you can start typing a contact name in a Twitter, and iOS 5 automatically switches it to an @reply. Okay, next I want to talk about the camera and the Photos applications. Let's start with the camera. Now, double-clicking the home button doesn't only bring up iPod controls, it also brings up a little camera button at the bottom of the screen. So you tap that and you're right in the camera without even unlocking your phone. They've also added a number of options to the camera application, including pinch to zoom, single tap focus, and auto exposure lock. And now you can use the volume button as a shutter button, which is awesome. What's more, if you have photo stream enabled, iCloud will automatically sync any picture you take on your iPhone or iPod to all of your iOS devices and your Mac or PC. Speaking of photos, Apple's added a lot of awesome new features to the Photos application. You can now crop pictures, rotate them, enhance them, or remove red eye right in the application. What's more, you can now create and organize your photos into albums right on your device, which is something I've been wanting for a very long time. And like I said, with the photo stream, all of these pictures will go right to all of your devices. As far as Safari is concerned, there's not too much change there. They've added something called Safari Reader, which displays articles in a reading-friendly environment with no ads or clutter. And they've also added tabbed browsing, which is really cool and really useful. One of the best new features, in my opinion, is the fact that you no longer need a computer at all for your iOS device. Right out of the box, instead of being prompted to connect to iTunes, you can just set your device up right there on the device. You never need to plug it into a computer if you don't want to. You can activate it wirelessly, download over-the-air updates, and back up and restore your devices wirelessly using iCloud. In that same vein, there's something called Wi-Fi Sync. Now this is for if you do want to use a computer with your iOS device. For this to work, all you have to do is plug your phone into any sort of power source, charging on the dock or on a cable or in some speakers, and have it connected to the same Wi-Fi network as your computer is, and your phone will automatically sync any new content and back up over Wi-Fi. Now obviously that is barely scraping the surface of the over 200 new features in iOS 5. Some of the other ones include the multitasking gestures for iPad that we saw in the past are now standard on iPads, as well as new Game Center support, AirPlay mirroring for iPad 2, and a ton of other new things. It's going to be available in the fall, but the developer beta is available today, so if you have a developer account, definitely go download it and let us know in the comments what you think. iOS 5 is compatible with the iPhone 3GS, iPhone 4, 3rd and 4th generation iPod Touches, and iPad and iPad 2.